in 1976, a sports movie took the world by storm. Written by Sylvester Stallone and directed by John G. Avildsen, this movie spawned a franchise that is still going to this day, with sequels and spin-offs abundant. I'm talking about Rocky, all about the titular boxer Rocky Balboa as he goes on a rags to riches story, falls in love, battles over the top opponents and ends the Cold War. Most of that stuff happens in the sequels, but this video is all about the original movie, the one that started it all. Rocky was created as a fairly small, independent movie in certain regards. It made careers out of Stallone and Avildsen, with Academy Award wins for Best Director and Best Picture, as well as nominations for Best Actor and Writing and more. Rocky is something special. It's an inspirational movie, and my personal favourite of the franchise. But there may be some facts and details about it that you didn't know. So here they are. Producers Irvin Winkler and Robert Chartock initially offered Sylvester Stallone $350,000 for the script. At that time, Stallone only had $106 in the bank, with no car. Things were so bad for him he was trying to sell his dog because he couldn't afford to feed him anymore. He was desperate, but not desperate enough to make demands. He refused to sell the script unless he was also allowed to star in the movie. When it came to the movie, the dog was an afterthought. I'm sure that's not true, but it might be. Luckily for all involved, they agreed. He continued to work as a writer for free and was paid instead for being an actor for scale. The producers then took the script to United Artists, who wanted a budget of $2 million with a big name star attached. They considered the likes of Robert Redford, Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, and James Caan. They then found out that Stallone was already attached to the lead role, so they cut the budget in half. The only way to finance the movie was to take that budget and for the producers to then remortgage their houses. Movie making. Very risky business. Remember Stallone's dog we just talked about? Well, he did try to sell it, and he succeeded, getting $50 for it. Personally, I think that's far too cheap, but I suppose he was desperate. A week later, he sold the script and bought the dog back. I don't know how much that cost him, but at least there was a happy ending. Plus, that very dog showed up in the movie as Butkus, Rocky's dog. It really is a dog-eat-dog world. There's a key scene in the movie where Mickey shows up at Rocky's apartment and offers to be his manager and trainer. Rocky then proceeds to have an emotional response, initially turning down the offer. This was completely improvised by Sylvester Stallone. Throughout the great monologue, Stallone refers to the smell coming from the bathroom. The bathroom of the tiny apartment they were filming in really did smell like death, so he made sure we all knew about it. I don't know how Burgess Meredith took this improvisation, but it all worked out in the end. A good scene. Being a movie about boxing, you expect to see a few punches thrown here and there. The fast-paced, violent nature of it makes it a little dangerous. And, as we all know, accidents happen. In this movie, the accidents weren't always physical. During Carl Weathers' audition, he was sparring with Stallone and accidentally punched Stallone on the chin. Stallone told the more experienced, famous man to calm it down a bit, reminding him it was only an audition. Weathers responded by stating that if he was allowed to audition with a real actor and not a stand-in, he would be able to do a lot better. The director of the movie, John G. Avildsen, was watching, and he smiled at Weathers, telling him that Stallone was the real actor and writer of the movie. Weathers gave Stallone a look and, in an attempt to rectify the mistake, he said, well, maybe he'll get better. This was enough for Stallone to immediately offer him the role of Apollo Creed, recognizing Weathers' similarities with the character. The famous ice rink date between Rocky and Adrian was initially meant to be very different. They wrote the scene with 300 extras in mind, all skating the rink at the same time, but the budget simply wouldn't allow it. On the day of the shoot, Stallone showed up and was shocked to discover there was only one extra there. He then hastily threw together a rewrite of the scene, and that's the version we got in the movie. Movie making. Sometimes you can go through years of planning, only for circumstances to throw it all out the window. Sometimes for the better. Prior to the big fight between Rocky and Apollo Creed, Stallone's character visits the arena and takes in the almighty scale and view of it. There, he notices a poster of himself hanging from the ceiling where he is depicted wearing red shorts with a white stripe, when in the actual fight he was going to wear a white shorts with a red stripe. This was a mistake. The prop department painted the poster wrong, and they didn't have time or budget or money to rectify it. So Stallone improvised and made Rocky point it out. It could only be a mistake if you let it be a mistake after all. It wasn't the only one of its kind either. Later, Rocky comments on the bagginess of his entrance robe. It was made too big for him. Rather than hoping the audience wouldn't notice, he wrote it into the script, making it part of the movie. That's how you fix a movie making problem. Just make it part of the movie. Or get a better prop department. In the movie, Joe Spinell plays the part of Gazzo, a loan shark gangster type. In one scene, he talks to Rocky about his reluctance to break in the funds of some dock workers refusing to pay up. Mid-scene, Gazzo then pulls out an inhaler and uses it. This wasn't in the script, and it was not an improvisation. Actor Joe Spinell had an actual asthma attack in the scene and had to use his inhaler there and then. Director Avildsen liked the authenticity of the moment and decided to leave it in, the result being a stereotypical gangster loan shark character with a bit more depth than you thought, fixing the stereotype. At this point, you're probably wondering just how much of the movie was actually written, because there sure seems to be a lot of improv and in-the-moment changes going on. Prior to the big fight, director Avildsen wanted to depict the fight in a unique, realistic way. He and the two actors all got into the ring and started to plot out the sequence. But it just didn't seem to work. The fight was coming across as staged and lacking in energy. The stuntmen and choreographers of the movie, Paul Stader and George P. Wilbur, resigned because creative differences, they said. In other words, their work was not very well liked. So Avildsen sent Stallone home to write the fight sequence, beat for beat, punch for punch, into the script. A very hard, tedious job. Stallone returned the next day with 32 pages of specific actions and directions for the fight. He and Weathers then learned all of them like a ballet or a dance sequence over a period of a few weeks, amounting to a total rehearsal time of 35 hours for one fight. Burt Young, the actor portraying Paulie, has said in the DVD extras that Stallone showed him the script he wrote, wanting his input. Why, you might ask? Well, Burt Young was once a boxer. Young made a few small suggestions and offered his feedback. So, what's the takeaway here? If you want a fight to seem more realistic, just write it all down. That doesn't seem right, but it worked out here. Sylvester Stallone wrote the first draft of the script in 3 days after experiencing some strong inspiration. How I envy him. As we know, the movie changed a lot during production, with on-the-fly changes and some improv. But the script also changed a few times before the movie even started. There were 9 rewrites before it was purchased by the producers. The original version of the script was much darker, depicting Mickey as a bitter old racist. The ending was also different, showing Rocky throwing the fight on purpose, having realized he did not want to be a part of the professional boxing world. It's hard to make sequels from that ending though, so they changed it. In the final fight, Sylvester Stallone's Rocky wears a type of boxing gloves called Casanovas. These gloves were chosen because of their sleek appearance and style. However, this type of glove is illegal in the US, but the producers ignored that deal because it was just a movie. Additionally, the rules of boxing were changed too, otherwise there would be no story to tell. Like Rocky would never have been able to challenge for the title because he hadn't beat one of the top 10 prior to that fight. When it comes to making movies, you can't always be a stickler for reality and accuracy. And those are 10 cool facts about Rocky. Let me know what you think in the comments and feedback down below, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at _Grant Burt. And of course subscribe to my channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.